For my regular YouTube audience, you know what you need to do next to get to the information that you want from this video. But for those who are new to my channel, here are some key points to help you work best with the information in this video. Number 1. Timestamps and other important information can be found in the description to this video. Number 2. The dates of the energies that are unfolding in the week ahead are in the introduction section of this video. Number 3. The degrees of current planet placements and their location in signs are also in the introduction section of this video. Number 4. I'm a personal astrologer giving a general astrology reading in this video. For some people it will resonate. For others, it will not this week due to the influence of planets in your own personal horoscope. It may vary from week to week how much my forecast will resonate with you. If you would like a reading with me to explore your own chart further, the link is also in the description for this video. Number 5. I am using the traditional system of whole sign astrology for my analysis in this video. Number 6. By listening to the introduction, it's going to help you know what's in store for you this week. And then you can go to your sun, moon, and rising signs for more information on what to expect specifically. Number 7. I use both Vedic and Western astrology techniques with what is known as the tropical astrology chart, or, for those who aren't aware, the Western astrology chart. Please explore the placement of your Western or tropical astrology sun, moon, and rising signs using the timestamps for this video. Number 8. Haters and hateful comments will be removed from this video. This is a safe space for everyone who visits here, and like a good bouncer at a nightclub would do, I will eject any haters from this platform. And now here's a final couple of tidbits of information for you about how to use this video. Astrology is not designed to scare you. It's designed to give you information so that you know what the good and the challenging energies in the week ahead will be, and you can therefore consciously work with them to the best of your advantage. Remember, knowledge is power. Now there are scammers about, and so if you should receive a message from me on any platform requesting your money for a reading, know that it is a scam. Report them immediately. And now settle in and let's see what the astral skies have in store for the week ahead. Hello Astro lovers, welcome to this week's Astro Weather Report, and it is such a special Astro Weather Report because we're in the midway period between two eclipses, and this is a profoundly important component of the year. It happens usually twice a year that we go through this midway component. Sometimes when we have more than 4 eclipses in a year, we can have more eclipse gateways as they're called, but this year it's only 2, thank goodness for that. But it's very powerful and life-changing, and there's so much to talk about. So this week's energy focus and this week's Astro Weather Report is very much centered around the eclipse gateway that's happening this week and for the 2 weeks duration between eclipses. But also a very special event is happening around the time of this eclipse gateway, and that is equinox. And we have a very special look at equinox and what it means for us coming up as well. But let's start with the eclipse gateway process that we are currently in. Now, eclipses always follow cycles, and they generally come in pairs. You'll have a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. Lunar eclipses fall on the full moon, which we've just had in Pisces, and solar eclipses occur when the moon is new. That's coming up for us in next week's Astro Weather Report. I'll be talking about the solar eclipse or the new moon eclipse. Now the time between, in this case it's a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, but sometimes it's the reverse way around. The time between these two pairs of eclipses is called the eclipse gateway, and it's a period that lasts usually, like I said, around 2 weeks. So the eclipse gateway, it is one of the most potent and magical times of the year because the energy of both lunar and solar eclipses merge, and it forms a bridge between our state of consciousness before the first eclipse and our emerging state of consciousness after the eclipse. It's the bridge period. And they're always huge periods of growth, huge periods of awakening and change. So this moment that we're in right now, between these two eclipses, these two pairs of eclipses, is really a time of transformation and renewal for us in so many ways. This is a very exciting period. Like I said, this is an eclipse gateway, but there are two kinds of eclipse gateways. There's the gateway that happens between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse, which is what we're going through at the moment. But equally, there's also a gateway that occurs between a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, and they have different effects based on which eclipse comes first and which eclipse comes second. So there's so much to explore here. Now, depending on the order of eclipses, like I said, the energy can be slightly different. The intensity of the eclipse gateway is also very dependent on the intensity of the eclipses either side of it. And I have to say that the lunar eclipse in Pisces was not that intense. It was a partial eclipse. Now, if it had been a total eclipse, then this would be a very powerful time that we would be in. Not quite so potent as it would be because it was only a partial eclipse. Now, the eclipse gateway can also carry a slightly different flavor depending on the astrological signs that the eclipses occur in. Now, this time we've had the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which is a mutable water sign. And the solar eclipse coming up, which I'll talk more about next week, is occurring in Libra, and it is going to be a cardinal and, sorry, I had to gather my thoughts there, cardinal and air sign, and that has different qualities as well. So one is masculine, one is feminine in its energy. Libra is the only sign in the horoscope actually that is ruled by a feminine planet but is actually a masculine sign. So quite an interesting combo there, Libra. There's so much to talk about when it comes to Libra. That said, if you're a Libran person, particularly Libra rising, and you want to understand more about Libra, I have a video all about Libra at my Learn Astrology page. In fact, I've got a video all about every single sign and the structure of the sign and what makes the sign the way that it is. This is called the Meta Zodiac. I have videos on all those topics for only $10 each at my Learn Astrology page. So check those out if you're interested in understanding more about, in this case, of Libra or Pisces for that matter. But back to the eclipse gateway, I digress. The gateway between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse is where we're at the moment. And when we're walking the eclipse gateway period, there's 2 weeks between lunar and solar eclipses, usually there will be a theme of releasing and letting go in order to make space for the new. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been taking particular note of all the things that have happened in the lead up to the lunar eclipse. And so much symbology. It's blowing my mind, the amount of symbology about change and releasing and saying goodbye to old patterns and old ways of being, like omens everywhere. Even at my work, we had it's springtime here, but we had the most monstrous hailstorm. Everything looked like a winter wonderland from a postcard from Europe because of the amount of hail we had freakishly in the town where I work as a town planner a couple of days a week. And that caused the roof of where I work, the office buildings, to collapse because they weren't used to that weight. And so we had this flood of water through our office buildings, and I haven't been able to go into my work for 2 weeks because the office is off limits to staff. So talk about a big eclipse event that's about, creating something new. Something was ending. Okay, we're not going to have the same old office we had before. They're going to renovate it and fix it up and make it. And when we go back to work after the eclipse season is over, it's going to be a whole new workspace with a whole new dynamic. So hello, there's another omen right there on more of a community level. But there's been things in my life personally as well that have been about letting go, like ending something, concluding something so that something new can begin. What has been happening in your life? Now, lunar eclipses, let's keep going. They have the ability to pull and drag things out of us. Almost like the moon's gravitational pull is helping to sort of pull out anything that's buried deep within. So this pulling and drawing out energy helps us to release things that are no longer serving us. And it's the energy that as I spoke of last week in the eclipse video, it's what is happening within us that affects our outer circumstances, because we are having these old paradigms, old patterns, old restrictions, old blockages, old outworn ideas pulled out of us because they don't serve us anymore, and we're having that drawn out of us so that it will then change our external circumstances. So it can bring up old thoughts, old patterns of behavior, old beliefs to the surface, so that you'll clear them, you'll recognize them, you'll say, well, enough with that old chestnut, I want to move out of that paradigm. So my friends, as you walk the eclipse gateway after the lunar eclipse, it's likely that you might feel drained and lethargic. Fascinatingly for me, it was like 4 hours after the eclipse occurred in Pisces, I'd been like buzzing and, for weeks I'd been, go, go, go. And then 4 hours after the eclipse, I was like, I've got to go to bed. I'm done. And I hadn't felt that way for weeks, maybe months. So it's very, very true that after a lunar eclipse in the eclipse gateway, you might feel drained and lethargic and just emptied. You might also feel the need to go within, to reflect, and to spend time on your own. And that's a healthy thing to do in the eclipse gateway. I encourage you to do it if you've got the chance. Now, hidden truths and feelings might also come to the surface, and you might have to deal with old wounds that you'd pushed away and forgotten about. They're going to come back in now. I had a situation, I'm using myself as an illustration because I'm a Pisces rising person, so this eclipse was quite strong with me. I thought that, my grandmother died in 2003, and it was a very grievous time for me. I was very close to my grandmother. But lo and behold, during the eclipse, I heard a song playing, and it just triggered that memory of my grandmother, and I had to take some time out to have a really good weep and a cry, because that old hurt and that longing and missing of my grandmother. There's certain configurations in my chart that mean that my grandmother and her energy is expressed through the sign of Pisces in my particular chart. So no surprises that connection with my grandmother is a hurt and a grief and a sadness that came up again. I'd forgotten about it. I had got on with my life. This was over 20 years ago that this happened, that she passed away. But her presence came back, most beautifully. I love it when I connect with her presence, but it's always sad now because she's not with me. So all these things can come up and be revealed, or not be revealed, present themselves to you to deal with once again as a result of the eclipse gateway that's occurring after, in this case, a lunar eclipse has been the first eclipse in the cycle. So lunar eclipses always challenge us to dig a little deeper, push a little further, so that we can create more awareness around our thoughts and our habits. And this is something that definitely intensifies as we move through this gateway period that we're currently in. Lunar eclipses bring endings because they're full moons, and full moons are culmination points. So these endings often occur during the gateway period itself. So we're in this period of endings. That could be in the end of a relationship, the end of a job, the end of a living condition, could be the end of a debt, could be the end of struggle, it could be the end of a problem, it could be the end of a health issue. Something is ending during this gateway period. Now, as we move closer to the upcoming solar eclipse, we're going to find that we move into a sense of lightness, and we might even start to feel like space has been created in our life. Like we've got room, we've got breathing space, the closer we get to the solar eclipse. Now, when the gateway period ends like this one will with a solar eclipse, it indicates that the months following the solar eclipse are going to be focused on creating the new and filling that empty space with something more positive, more aligned, more in tune with our destiny. Remember, eclipses are about shuffling us back onto the path of our destiny. because they're done by the nodes. The past is the south node, the future is the north node, and so that's what causes eclipses. And this shuffling period is really what the Eclipse Gateway is all about, getting us back on track. After the solar eclipse, we're going to be creating something new and filling that empty space. So it indicates also that the months following the solar eclipse are going to be filled with action, filled with energy, and you're going to be very much supported by the divine to move forward into whatever new is emerging in your life. So this is what I'm going to be discussing for the all signs breakdown. We're going to be looking at Pisces as the key house where this is expressing, because that's where the lunar eclipse occurred. But it's actually a period where we're in this zone as the moon moves between Pisces and Libra, where the next lunation is going to occur. So very, very powerful time of change is the Eclipse Gateway. The other thing that's happening this week that I'm very excited to share all about with you is the equinox. This is when the sun moves into Libra, and whenever the sun ingresses into a cardinal sign, in that case cardinal signs for those who don't know are Libra, Capricorn, Aries or Cancer, we get a shift of season basically. In the northern hemisphere, autumn or fall. In the southern hemisphere, spring. So here, as the sun moves into Libra, we officially begin spring. And so seasonal changes occur whenever we have an equinox or a solstice. And this is going to be a lovely 30-day, get my words out, period for balancing your life, bringing equality and fairness to every interaction that you had, as is the nature of Libra. Making connections. Libra is partnerships. Libra is balance and connections that are going to help drive you forward, particularly in career, because the sun is generally speaking a career planet. Now you can use this energy to create relationships that are going to give you more harmony in your life, or to focus on making more harmonious interactions with the relationships that already exist in your life. We've got a greater capacity to focus on understanding right now when the sun is in Libra, and considering the needs of others comes much more easily to us. It is a wonderful energy, my friends, for enjoying the things of Libra, sophisticated pleasures, refinement, or the artistic, architectural, tactile things that make life quite delightful and beautiful in a refined way. So ask yourself, what brings a sense of refinement into your world? Maybe it's a fancy dinner. Maybe it's a fresh decor. Maybe it's attending some sort of fabulous exhibition or gallery or museum. And when you know what it is that transports you into that place of sophisticated delight, you should go there with abandon. This is the month for it. This is the month where our confidence and our sense of self and our ability to shine, our I am, is enhanced by enjoying Libran things. So do take that opportunity while the sun is in Libra, my friends. And happy birthday to all my Librans who are watching here with me today. Now, there's so much more to say. This is a general astrological view of the sun in Libra, but there's so much more to tell you about the equinox. But I'm not going to do that alone. I have a special treat for you. My husband, David Warner Matheson, who is a brilliant celestial mechanics teacher, for those who are interested in understanding how the solar system works and the mechanics of the moon, the earth, the sun, the planets, and so forth, and how they actually function to bring about certain things in our lives. And can I just say, this is so important to understand if you want to be a really good astrologer. So many astrologers just repeat on rote what they've been told by somebody else without understanding the mechanisms behind what they're sharing, what they're teaching, what they're giving out to people. It's very unhealthy to not have a grasp of why things are the way they are. And David is the best teacher I've encountered on celestial mechanics and understanding the mechanisms of our solar system. He has a course on that at Undying Stars. Do go there. It's only $50. I encourage you to take it so you understand how our solar system interacts and works so much better. And because he's such a good teacher on that topic, David's going to share a little about the equinox with us now, just a snippet, so that we can understand what is actually happening in the sky and why it's happening and what it actually means at a soul level for us when we go through the equinox. Well, here I am, everybody, with my husband, the wonderful David Warner Matheson, to tell us all about equinox. As I've just explained to you, David is brilliant when it comes to celestial mechanics, the movements of the heavens. And so without any further ado, I'm going to handball it, as we do in Australia, over to David to tell us, what is equinox?
Well, thank you, Kesenya, and it's great to be here with your wider astrology family and listeners around the world. And thanks for having me here to talk about the equinox. The equinox is very important in the world's ancient myths. There are alignments around the world in monuments, ancient monuments that are aligned to the equinoxes around the world. It was clearly seen as an important celestial marker on our annual cycle. And the myths are speaking a language, and we'll get into that just briefly. But to your question of what is the equinox, so the word itself, as everyone has probably heard at one point or another, means equal night, equinox. When the length of daylight and length of nighttime are roughly equal, but they're not exactly equal due to the curvature of the earth and the size of the sun's disk and the bending of the light from our atmosphere. So it doesn't really mean when days and nights are exactly equal. It's when the sun is crossing the celestial equator. And I have online courses that really get into it that you can go check out. But I'll show briefly on this beautiful online planetarium stellarium that I have here. I'll just share my screen over on this other computer.
While you're doing that, I'll explain to people that from an astrological chart perspective, when the sun moves to 0 degrees of Libra, that's when we consider it to be spring equinox in Australia and fall equinox in the Northern Hemisphere. So spring in the Southern Hemisphere. And the reverse is true when it is the sun is moving into 0 degrees of Aries. That is considered spring in the Northern Hemisphere and autumn or fall in the Southern Hemisphere. But David's going to show us much more in depth.
Yeah, so the crossing of the sun across the celestial equator will happen this year. It happens twice a year as the sun is going up towards the summer half of the year, and as it goes down towards the winter half of the year, it crosses this halfway point twice a year, once on the way up, the other time on the way down. What is up and down? Well, it depends on your hemisphere. But this crossing will happen this coming Sunday, the 22nd. It'll be at 5:43 a.m. for North America in the Pacific time zone in California. That'll be 8:43 a.m. in New York on the East Coast. Here in Australia, in Melbourne time, it'll also be Sunday, but we're 17 hours ahead, so it'll be at 10:43 p.m. That's when the sun's disk, the midway point, goes exactly through the celestial equator in the sky. Let me show you what that looks like inside of a planetarium. I've got this wonderful online, well, it's you can download it. The downloaded version is better than the online version, but this is Stellarium, an open source free planetarium, and it's a really wonderful way of seeing the heavens. And like I said, I've got online courses called Celestial Mechanics and the Myths. I'm also going to be I'll be talking about some familiarization with the heavens in this upcoming live Zoom seminar that will be happening later this month. But let me just familiarize your listeners with the celestial equator and the sun's movement throughout the year by looking at this online planetarium. So I've situated the observation point to be in the northern hemisphere. So we're in basically California. You can see the latitude down at the bottom, 31.8 degrees north. But we're looking towards the south, which in the northern hemisphere, you look towards the south to see the path of the sun. In the southern hemisphere, you look towards the north. But this is the heavens, and you can see, I'll talk a little bit more about this in my online Zoom session coming up, and you can see it in celestial mechanics as well. But there's the north celestial pole where all these lines are coming together behind our heads as we turn towards the south. So down from that north celestial pole, 90 degrees down, is the celestial equator. It's halfway, it's a line halfway between the north celestial pole and the south celestial pole. So that's this line right here, starts here at the letter E for east, and it goes over to the letter W for west. And that's 90 degrees down from the north celestial pole. So if you were to count these 10-degree circles, 90, 80, 70, you get down to this line here. That is the celestial equator. It's the 0-degree line. It's imaginary, you know, isn't that, you can't see it in the sky, but it's handy to turn it on for this exercise because that's the celestial equator. When the sun is above that or north of that, well, the northern hemisphere is going to have summer.
Mm-hmm.
The North Pole is high overhead in the northern hemisphere. When you're down here in Australia, the south celestial pole is high overhead. The north celestial pole is below our feet. So north is actually down. So we get the sun going towards the upper half. It's all reversed. It gets complicated. I won't get into all of that right now, but here I've dialed back to June 22nd. So basically the middle of summer. And you can see, yeah, it's basically summer solstice. This is about as high as the sun gets. And look, you can see if you look over here, the 10-degree line, the 20-degree line. So this one that runs through east to west, that's the 0-degree line. So you can see that the sun is what? 23 degrees above that line. It's reached its maximum point, its most northern point. So that's going to be the highest point for the northern hemisphere. That's going to be the middle of summer. For us down here in the southern hemisphere, it's the lowest point because north is down. So the sun will be very close to the horizon in the middle of our winter. But what I'm going to do, I've put it at basically noon. Let me dial us back to 12 noon. So there's the sun at its highest point in the day, and this happens to be the highest point in the year. And what I'm going to do is move us through the year. So as I move us forward, you can see, just keep your eye on the sun. You can see it's moving through the background stars of the zodiac. It just moved through Gemini, if you're familiar with these outlines. Now it's moving into Cancer. And then it's going to move into Leo. But notice also, as it goes through these different background constellations, it's getting closer to the zero line. It's getting lower in the sky for the northern hemisphere. It's going down.
And this is at midday, one day at a time.
One day at a time, right. I'm moving us forward one day at a time, and you can see, oh, it just crossed the 10. It's heading down towards the zero line. It's passing through the background stars of Leo, and now it's coming up to the background stars of Virgo. And as it gets down to, boom, September 22nd, just like we just talked about, that is when the sun crosses from the upper or the northern half of the sky, the dome of the sky, imaginary dome, down to the lower half. It's imaginary to think of it as a dome. It's not imaginary what it's doing. This is all observable. So let me just run it through the year so that you can watch this cycle, this dance of the sun.
And can I just point out that while the sun was in the constellation of Virgo, that's sidereal visible astrology, And we see that in tropical astrology, Western astrology, as being the constellation of Libra, the first degree of Libra, as we said.
Right. When it leaves Virgo and goes into Libra during the age of Aries, that's why it's tropical.
And trying to explain sidereal versus tropical is too big a topic for this video, but I do talk about it in the Royal Stars Academy, so if you want to learn about that.
So you can see it just made it to the high point again. But
yes.
So we'll just trace it again. So it's heading
through Leo.
It's going down and it's going to cross that line, that 0-degree line, boom.
At Virgo.
Yeah, it's in the sky sidereally in Virgo, but because of the precession of the equinoxes, it used to cross that at basically the exit point of Virgo, the entry point of Libra, which is what you just said. And that's important because of what I'm going to show. So that's what's happening in the heavens. And we can map that out on a zodiac wheel is basically a way of shorthand on paper showing this cycle, because this cycle is magnificent. It's magnificent, it's huge, it's happening in the sky, but we can bring that down onto basically a piece of paper and map it out. So let me, as an introduction, explain the ancients were using these cycles as a kind of an esoteric language to describe profound concepts that have to do with our lives. And there's an author, and I'm going to share this screen here. There's an author named Peter Kingsley, and he is a scholar, a professor, a classicist who understands ancient Greek. And the ancient Greek language is a profound language. It has very precise terminology, a lot of which has found its way into English. But if you really understand ancient Greek, you can go to these ancient poems, these ancient texts like the Odyssey, or these ancient poems that were left to us by these thinkers who have been called philosophers. But Peter Kingsley explains, really, this whole idea of philosophy, what they were trying to tell us was even more profound than what we think of as philosophy. And he's going back to the writings of these thinkers, Parmenides and Empedocles, and he says, look, when they're talking, they're giving us poems that describe an encounter with a goddess and going down into the underworld. And the modern students of philosophy just kind of throw that out and say, oh, that was just an imaginary device that they were using. And Peter Kingsley says, no, if you miss what they're telling you about the goddess, you're going to miss everything that they're trying to tell you. What's happened is it's been sterilized and cleaned up. It's like all this ancient wisdom has been suppressed and turned into something completely different. So because Peter Kingsley understands the Greek language, he can go in and look at those actual poems and bring out the meaning. And it's the same with the language of the myths. These connection to the stars, that's a language. That's what I've been pursuing for the past 15 plus years. If you understand this language of the myths, I'm going to just share just a tiny bit of it having to do with the equinox. But before I do that, let me point out that what Peter Kingsley is showing about Parmenides and Empedocles is they are very focused on this concept of the soul coming down into this world. So I'm quoting here from Peter Kingsley. This is a screenshot of page 361 of this book, Reality. And he says, it all begins with the soul, utterly pure, divine, immortal, sharing the company of other pure souls, but otherwise quite separate and apart. The soul is in this pure realm. It's divine, it's immortal, but it was up in the heavens where it belongs, because the original home of the daemon, a Greek word, is not here on earth. Quite to the contrary. The heavens are where it comes from. But, and then here's the next page, page 362, the soul comes down out of the heavens, and he says here in this part that I'm outlining, what had been pure and immortal becomes mortal, is pulled down out of the heavens and dragged into the depths, utterly lost to its own kind. It cries out with longing for its own familiar realm, and cries out even more when it sees the, quote, unfamiliar place, to use the expression used by Empedocles. So he's saying, when Empedocles is talking about where the soul gets dragged down to, he calls it the unfamiliar place. Guess what? That's where we are.
No kidding.
We're in the unfamiliar place. You ever get this feeling that,
I don't quite belong here?
I'm in an unfamiliar place. What is this place? That's the exact translation, according to Peter Kingsley, of what Empedocles was trying to describe where we are. It finds itself surrounded by phantoms, plunged into a world of dreams. Any original sense of identity is gradually left behind as the soul is deprived of all its dignity, stripped of its joy. This sounds horrible. And he goes on, and it becomes aware that it has been brought inside a vast covered-over cave. That's this life. It has entered a grim, oppressive underworld where strange shapes and the terrifying events that take place can only be seen very dimly, quote, through the darkness. So these are actual phrases. When he puts them in quotation marks, that's from Empedocles, translated into English, where we're in a covered-over cave where we can only see dimly through the darkness. You might know that Paul, in the letters of Paul, he says the same sort of thing. And in the obscurity of this covered-over cave, the soul is about as far away from its home, its own freedom, its original simplicity, as it could possibly be. So this is what the ancients were focused on, according to Peter Kingsley's translation of Empedocles and Parmenides. Check out this book. It's profound. It's deep. This is what the myths are trying to dramatize for us using the language, not necessarily Greek, although of course there are ancient myths in Greek. There's ancient myths in Sanskrit from the Vedas of India. There's ancient myths in Norse. There's ancient myths in the Maya, in the Popol Vuh. There's ancient myths all around the world. They're all using this celestial system, and this is a zodiac wheel that I like to use. Your viewers may say, oh, it's going clockwise, I want it to go counterclockwise. Doesn't matter. We saw what it does in the heavens. This is how we describe it on the page. You can lay it out to go clockwise, you can lay it out to go counterclockwise, but we saw that the plunge down, crossing that celestial equator at the September equinox, that's the sun's plunge down into the lower half of the year for those in the northern hemisphere. It's the fall equinox. Can you find it on the wheel? I put an X on the two equinoxes, and I've arranged the wheel so that the plunge down and then the rise back up is at the two, the 9 o'clock and the 3 o'clock positions on the wheel. So can you see Virgo and then the crossing point into Libra? This is tropical. I'll outline Virgo. Oh, and I'm going to talk about two mothers just briefly. I'm not going to go through this whole story. This is from the Bible. There's a story where there's two mothers in the Bible. There's two mothers in myths around the world a lot. Why are there two mothers? It's esoteric. In this story of two mothers, you'll probably know the story once I tell you, and you can see the picture. That's a painting by Raphael. But there's two mothers in ancient Egypt. Like Osiris has Isis and Nephthys, and baby Horus, it said Isis bore him, but Nephthys suckled him. So there's two mothers. There's two mothers it's a pattern that we see in myth around the world. So in this story of the judgment of Solomon, this famous story, King Solomon has been given this special wisdom, and right after he gets this special wisdom, these two mothers come to him. They're actually described as two harlots, and one of them says, "Hey, King, you got to help me out here. I had a baby." And then, this is in 1 Kings chapter 3, and I put verse 18 up at the top. She says, "And then it came to pass the third day after that I was delivered, that this woman was delivered also." So this other woman was living in the same house with me. We were both prostitutes, and we both had children 3 days apart. So I had a baby. 3 days later, she was delivered of a baby too. We were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, save we two in the house. Just two of us in the house, two mothers, delivered of a baby 3 days apart. And then she says, but she lay on top of her baby at night by mistake and smothered it, and it died. And then she switched her baby with mine. And then King Solomon said, "Oh, And then the other mother says, no. That's my baby that's alive, and it's her baby that's dead." And King Solomon says, "Oh, wait a minute. So you're saying the live baby is yours, and you're saying the live baby is yours. How am I going to figure it out?" And then this whole scene takes place. Well, the two mothers...
Are you going to tell us what happens in the end?
Well, yes, how can King, if you know the story, or if you look at the painting, you'll see that King Solomon says, this one says the live baby is hers, and the dead baby belongs to the other one. The other one says the live baby is hers, and the dead baby belongs to the other one. How to tell? And then he says, "Fetch me a sword." And so they fetch him a sword because he's the king. And then he says, "Cut the live baby in half. Give one half to that mother and the other half to that mother, and problem solved. They each get half of the live baby." And I've figured out the problem. And then, of course, one of the mothers says, "No, don't do that. Don't cut that baby in half. Give it to her. I don't care. Just give it to her. Just don't cut the baby in half." And the other mother says, No, cut it in half. I think that's a great idea. I'll take half and she can have half." And Solomon says, "Okay, stop. Don't cut the baby." So Solomon isn't the one cutting the baby in half, because he says, "Stop, don't cut." So he's obviously talking to someone else, as you can see in the painting. He's sitting in between the two pillars. He's commanding the swordsman there, who's holding a live baby, who's arching in panic because he's about to get cut in half. And Solomon says, "Stop, I figured it out." Gives the baby to the one who said, "Don't cut it in half." That's obviously the real mother. And the one who said, "Go ahead and kill it," that can't be the real mother. But the point is, two mothers. The descent down into this world of confusion, that's the first birth. That's the first birth. That's the first mother. And the ancient myths use this celestial cycle to dramatize this plunge down into that horrible land of phantoms and
Peter Kingsley spoke about.
Yeah, Peter Kingsley is telling us, hey, this is what Empedocles and Parmenides and the ancient myths are talking about. This plunge down into this world, that's dramatized. Now, this is not Peter Kingsley talking. Now, this is me. I'm telling you that in my years of study of the myths, they use this cycle to talk about the plunge downward happening at this September equinox. So I've outlined Virgo in yellow there. Can you see Virgo on the zodiac wheel? That's the plunging down point. After the sun goes through Virgo and goes into the first degree or 0 degrees of Libra, boom, you've crossed down into the lower half of the year. That's the first birth, the plunge downward into this realm of darkness. The first birth.
Can I add that it's the realm of darkness, because most of this is done from a northern hemisphere perspective, and you're moving into a time period where the days are going to get shorter.
That's right.
Greater lengths of darkness and cold, moving through autumn is why it's associated with the plunge into darkness.
So when the sun is above the celestial equator those in the northern hemisphere are going to have hours of daylight longer than hours of darkness. But as it gets down towards that celestial equator, that's why we have the word equinox, the days get shorter and shorter until they're roughly equal at this crossing point. Not exactly equal, but very close. The reason is the sun is not just a single dot, it's a disk. So we still have slightly longer hours of daylight for a couple days after equinox. Also, the atmosphere bends the rays a little bit. So you can have a few minutes longer of daylight, but basically they're roughly equal at the equinox. And then night starts to get longer than day. So for the northern hemisphere, that lower half of that wheel means nights longer than days. And you can see I've written it down at the bottom of the disc of the zodiac wheel. So that's the first birth. That plunge downward, that's the first birth. Notice that it happens around Virgo. If we're looking for a mother figure, Libra doesn't look like a mother, but Virgo does.
It's often associated with mothers in mythology.
Right. So then we do get Libra, Scorpio, and then down at the very bottom of the wheel, Sagittarius, and this is where we're going to have a turning point, another turning point in the cycle. This is where days have been getting shorter and shorter and shorter for the northern hemisphere until we reach that very lowest point. Then there's going to be a turning point and days will start to get longer again. That's the rebirth of the year. That's the second birth. So the ancient myths in Sagittarius, we have a second birth. That's not the physical birth. That's the spiritual birth. That's the live baby. When you're born into the physical body, guess what? That's the dead baby. Your physical body, will eventually die. But remember, the soul is immortal. That's what Empedocles was teaching us. Okay, I'll just finish off by showing, look at this painting by Raphael, and you can do this all the way down through the centuries. I could go back to ancient Greek artwork and match it up with the constellations. Raphael has depicted the two mothers in the forms of the actual constellations in the heavens. And I'm going to show that to you. This mother here is actually in the outline of Virgo. Now, a lot of people don't get taught, none of us get taught this. You have to seek this out for yourself. I will be in this Ecstatic Stars live Zoom. I'm going to be familiarizing us with the constellations, what they actually look like, how to find them, why the ancient traditions use the heavens in this coded language. But look at the outline of Virgo. That's the actual stars of Virgo. Look at the way that Raphael has painted that mother. She looks like Virgo. You can see the outstretched arm. You can see kind of the dress and even the posture of her. And some people may be saying, well, that's kind of a stretch. I don't know. She's got two hands out, but actually, if you just look at her outline, only one hand,
is as being extended, the others within
the other's like,
of the body. Yeah.
So it's like she's just got one arm sticking out, just like Virgo. But the real clincher is the other woman. Let me show you the other mother who's kind of pointing to the baby with one hand, but she's looking back with the other hand. Her feet are going one way. Her head and hand are going back the other way. So she's distinctly walking in one direction, that direction, but looking back in that direction. This is a very distinctive characteristic down through the centuries, across cultures. I can show you this in Greek myth and Greek artwork. I can show you this in other stories.
Aztec.
Yes, this is Sagittarius. Remember, I said the second birth happens at Sagittarius. This is the constellation Sagittarius. That is Sagittarius in the heavens. Now look at the outline of the stars. Can you see how the constellation itself could be interpreted as walking in that direction, but then turning around and actually pointing a bow back in that direction. And actually, that second arrow is beginning, the beginning of that second arrow is actually at the southern crown. The two babies actually match up with with constellations called the northern crown and the southern crown. The dead baby there, the dead baby that has been switched, has been put with the mother Sagittarius, who's the live. That's the second birth. That's the spiritual birth. There's been a switch that is happening. The northern crown is this baby is the northern crown, that other baby is the southern crown. But what I'm trying to show you and your listeners is that the plunge down at Virgo, or at the end of Virgo, going to Libra, that's the first birth. It's the plunge down into this world of confusion, but there's a rebirth. There's a second birth.
Comes at solstice.
The ancient system, it's not that it necessarily comes at solstice in our lives, but the ancient code uses the zodiac wheel to teach us or to dramatize it for us, to show us. So I'll just cut it off right there and stop the share. And that's where we are.
That is amazing, you know, like a whole different perspective on the cycle of time, which includes the two equinoxes and the two solstices, and how they have esoteric significance. And that's something that we don't often get shown or taught, but Dave, you know all about that. And on that topic, Dave will be hosting, as he's mentioned already, a very special live Zoom session all about the ecstatic stars. Dave, do you want to share a little bit about what that live Zoom is going to be all about and where people can join that live Zoom to learn more of this ancient esoteric wisdom that you are so profoundly knowledgeable about?
Sure. So I will be publicizing this on Instagram, but it's going to be on the 29th of September, which is Sunday in Australia. It'll be Saturday in America and Europe, but I'll be posting all the details, and I'll be going through the constellations and showing how to find them and talking about this concept of the ecstatic, the use of the ancient systems that are pointing us towards connection to that divine realm, that invisible realm. And it's in the cultures all around the world. I'm going to be talking about some Norse myths. On my father's side of the family, we came from Norway. My grandfather was born in Norway. So the Norse myths, the figure of Odin, he goes into the other realm to bring back wisdom. It is showing us something for our own lives. It's not just a story.
That's very much what shamans do in many cultures as they venture into the other realms to bring back wisdom for humanity. And so that's represented in the myths, as you've just shared, and you'll be talking about that kind of thing in your session.
That's right. And that's what also Parmenides and Empedocles are talking about when they talk about going into the underworld led by a goddess. They're going into the eternal realm, and that's in Greek myth. And in Norse myth, I just mentioned Odin. So sometimes when people say, oh, shamanic, I know that word gets overused, or people can get uncomfortable with it because it has been overused and commercialized, and but it is actually the concept of the ecstatic, and not all ecstatic experiences are shamanic. Okay, shamanic is a special type of ecstatic, but the reason I'm calling this the ecstatic stars is the stars are a map of the eternal, and we have a connection to the eternal. All of us have a connection to the eternal. That plunge downward, remember the original quotations, the soul, is stripped of all of its joy and dignity, is what Empedocles was saying, but we still have that connection. We're actually still connected to the eternal. All of us are. It's just that plunge down, it gets suppressed as we go down. That's what the the plunge down on that wheel shows, but then there's a second birth. So
that's a lot of what you'll
some
be
of what we'll
talking
be
about.
talking about on the
And
29th.
giving sort of guidance as to how we can experience that and that sort of thing.
Yes, so I'm looking forward. Hope you can join me there. And thanks so much for this opportunity to talk with you about the equinox.
Thank
Kesenya.
you for explaining equinox to us, friends. If you want to join David, there will be a link in the description below to Dave's website where you can book in to be part of his special event that's coming up. Very exciting event. I can't wait to participate and learn. So join us there for this online event. And thank you once again, Dave, for being part of our Equinox special here at Guiding Star Astrology. Thank you, everybody. So now we're going to break down for all signs the eclipse gateway effect. So excited to talk about this with you. It's a very different part of astrology for sure. So let me set up my little wheel here, the astro wheel. If you would like to purchase your own astro wheel, of course they're for sale at the website, links in the description below. But here is the astro wheel with Pisces as the rising sign. And so my friends who are Pisces rising, sun or moon, you can also consider those as well. This is the realm of growth, awakening and change. We're going to understand ourselves so much better at the end of this eclipse gateway period. We're going to really transform who we are. Now, this can be transforming our image. You know, maybe you're somebody who's always dressed in, proper work attire, very sophisticated sort of button-up suits and what have you, to go to work. And after the effects of this eclipse, you might be like, you know what, I'm going to loosen it up a bit. I'm going to wear dangly earrings. I'm going to wear shirts that hang off my shoulder and feel a little bit more cash. I'm going to change my image in some way. And there's transformation and renewal of our identity physically, and even our identity of I am. Because the first house is the I am house. I am a mother. I am a town planner. I am a child. I am a husband. I am whatever. The I am, it's how we identify ourselves. And for many of you Pisces people, you are now in a process of transforming the I am, changing how you identify yourself and therefore how the world will now see you. So it's a time of releasing, time of endings, a time of letting go of your identity in some way in order to make space for the new. For some Pisces people, there's perhaps some deep issues that have been pulled out of you that you have held buried deep within. Maybe you felt in order to please, because Pisces is one of those signs that just loves to make sure everybody else around them is happy, and they tend to lose themselves in order to please others. Some of you might be really coming to grips with how you have behaved and dressed and presented yourself to the world in order to please others, and have lost yourself in doing so. And you might be like, screw this. After this eclipse, you might be like, I'm not doing that anymore. This self-image that is really the true me, I've buried under all these buttoned-up suits and buried under this nicey nice, happy facade, wearing the mask of everything's okay and I'm fine. I'm going to let go of that, and I'm going to start being really, truly me. I'm going to start dressing how I want. I'm going to start saying what I really feel within instead of trying to just placate everybody. We are drawing on the deep self that in many cases has been buried in order to keep the peace, in order to keep the status quo. That is now starting to blossom and emerge as a result of this eclipse, and I think that's a wonderful thing. We need more dynamics in humanity, more difference, not more homogeny. Let that go. We don't want all, a row of Barbie dolls just lined up to do whatever we're told. We want to really express the divine as the divine wants to be expressed with our particularly individual astro wiring. Now, Pisces, you are a sign that does like rest. And doesn't mean Pisces people are lazy, no, but they need rest to cope. They need rest to heal the soul and to sort of excrete and rid the body of all the impressions that we gather throughout each day. Rest is very important to a Pisces person. Now, that can be sleep, or it can be just, time out in a fantasy novel, or walking in nature, or daydreaming out the window. Pisces needs real rest. And this eclipse gateway period, as I've said, is an energy of feeling drained and feeling lethargic. And so Pisces, rest. You must. If you feel tired, take a nap. If you feel exhausted with dealing with your responsibilities, then grab a cup of tea and stare out the window for a while and let the washing wait. This is time for going within and resting, and it's something that needs to happen in order for the soul to process and let go of what needs to be let go of in order to make space for the new. Now, Pisces, hidden feelings and truths can actually come up to the surface right now. You might find that in taking a bit of a rest, in taking some time out, you might discover, you know what, my heart really longs to do XYZ. I want to start some entrepreneurial endeavor. I want to start a fashion boutique down the street because, I'm sick of seeing empty shops. I'm tired of everybody buying online and not having an actual shopping experience. I'm going to go and start an entrepreneurial fashion boutique or something, I'm not saying you should go start a boutique. I'm just using that as an example. First house is to initiate. First house is to be entrepreneurial. And it's only in taking that time to rest, to recharge your batteries, that this hidden desire within you might start to bubble up and present itself. But you've got to rest to be able to tune into that heart's desire. So that hidden truth, that feeling, that initiatory desire that lies latent within you, Pisces, is going to want to come up. Listen in to what the soul is telling you, because it's going to be helping you move into whatever wants to be created going forward from the eclipse season, whatever new things want to express. For many Pisces people, it will have to do with initiating something new in their lives. It might be initiating a new relationship, initiating a new business, like the illustration I gave you, initiating maybe a new project, initiating a new social media account, initiating something, because this is the starting point. First house, this is the beginning. And so something wants to come through and start fresh for you, Pisces. And so listen to the soul to know what that might be. Now, I just have to wrap up this little breakdown by speaking about the process between the lunar eclipse in Pisces going through to the solar eclipse in Libra, because when the solar eclipse in Libra happens, that is we're going to get this sense of lightness as this 2 weeks unfolds. But when the solar eclipse occurs in Libra, that's when we're going to start to feel space being created in our life related to Libran things. So yes, we're going to start something new that's very important for us perhaps in the next 18-year cycle of our lives. Lunar eclipse happening here in Pisces, letting go of the old I am so that a new I am can come in. But here in Libra, this is an indicator of some new beginning, new energy, new action, new experience that is perhaps aligned with a very deeply spiritual side of yourself, 8th house, a mystical side of yourself that might emerge. 8th house, Libra, is where this eclipse, solar eclipse, will be occurring. So you might be creating something new in a spiritual sense or new in an occult sense. I'll use myself as an example. In this case, maybe I'm going to, during this eclipse gateway period, I'll get an inspiration that comes in for some new astrological offering that I can give to the world, because 8th house is astrology. And that's what I do for a living. So it might be some new avenue. It could be a new teaching course. It could be a new webinar, something metaphysical, astrological that might want to be expressed following on from this eclipse gateway period. Now, for others, it might be that you decide to write a new will for yourself so that everything's set up in that way. This is the house of wills and legacies and inheritances. Some of you might find that there, and I'll talk more about this next week, but there is some sort of inheritance you can utilize going forward in the coming weeks. Some of you might find that what is the space that's coming in has relationship to your partner's resources, business partner or marriage partner, either way. And that is where a lot of your energy and action and attention is going to be focused, in the realm of your partner's resources. After this solar eclipse, that's the space might be being created to sort of work with your partner in some way, establishing their ability to make money or to have enough backing in their life to support you. So there's a focus there as well. I would also suggest that it's very much for Pisces people. The end of this eclipse gateway period is going to be very focused on therapeutic healing. Because that's 8th house energy. Really, it's about psychological releasing and letting go and big transformation. So Pisces, this is a very dynamic eclipse gateway for you. Learning all about the self, releasing any blockages to the self, and being therapeutically healed in order to go forward. So you might discover some new therapeutic technique, art therapy, music therapy, dance therapy, a new book that is a deep self-exploration book, a psychology book or an astrology book or something. Deep transformation of self that I think is awaiting Pisces people as a result of this eclipse gateway period. Thank you, Pisces. Moving along, we have Aries rising, Aries sun, Aries moon people, and this eclipse gateway period is affecting you between the 12th house and the 7th house. So what does that mean? It means that you are going to be, Aries, under an influence for this 2-week period of awakening to past life experiences. Now that could be that you have a regression or something like that, maybe a spontaneous regression that you go and remember, past lives in some way through some dream or some hypnotic trance that you enter into and you touch back into a past life. But it can also mean that you actually have an actual hypnotic session with a regressionist to explore past lives. But in doing so, there can be some awakening to problems in past lives that are now carried forward into this life that you are going to get the chance to heal. That's one way. It can also be that you have an awakening and realization about how the early part of your childhood has impacted you now and why you are the way you are today because of some early childhood experiences or influences or impacts. So this is early part of the eclipse gateway period is a time of transformation from those things and renewal from those things. It's very much about addressing your inner insecurities, your self-destructive behaviors, any self-denial, any self-sabotaging. And it's about learning to take responsibility, Aries, in order to overcome this. You can't do anything about the way mum treated you when you were 5 years old now. You are the one that needs to reconcile that. And this eclipse energy is designed to help you with that. This is a period of release, of endings, of letting go in order to make space for the new. So it's about letting go of those old past paradigms, those things that are deeply buried within your psyche, releasing them and letting them go. Now, this can sometimes include material things. For some Aries people, it is about letting go of the material if it's holding you back from feeling fulfilled in life. Maybe you're so bogged down in a mortgage that's just way over what you're putting 70% of your income into your mortgage every week and it's just killing the joy in your life. Well, maybe this eclipse inspires you to let that go. Sell the house and buy something cheaper so that it's manageable. This is a house of debts in Vedic astrology, and because the lunar eclipse is about letting go and releasing certain energies, in order that your life can be transformed, then it may be that some big debt you've been carrying needs to be let go of. Now, you could initiate that, or it might happen for you. Something might happen that allows you to be liberated from a debt. And if nothing is sort of landing in your lap regarding liberation of a debt, maybe you need to start exploring what action you can take to liberate yourself from debts and burdens in your life. Because the 12th house is a house of loss. And loss need not be bad. If you lose a debt, that's a good thing. That's worth celebrating. You know, if you lose an old self-sabotaging behavioral pattern and you're no longer in that energy anymore, or a grief or a wound, that's a great thing. So loss can be good, and I encourage you to direct your attention to losing out of your life the things that hold you back so that you can move into a new beginning. And that's what we're going to talk about in just a second. Now, particularly Pisces rising and Aries people are going to feel particularly tired, I feel, as a result of the Eclipse Gateway, because this is a house of rest and sleep, and the Eclipse Gateway, in the order that it's in, is designed to make us need more rest. And I encourage you to do so, Aries, even though it's probably not in your usual nature. Spend time on your own, time reflecting, meditating, having a nana nap if you need to, because that, in doing so, that is going to allow hidden truths to come to the surface. It's going to allow your soul to sort of breathe out for a minute so that you can get a good gist of where you are next to go, what next steps in life to take. So do take a rest and allow yourself to be to have that time out if you feel that you need it. There might be something from the past also coming to the surface as well, especially if it's been hidden. And this is usually the kind of hidden things that you don't know about. You know, it's not a skeleton in the closet that you're ignoring. It is a hidden energy. So there might be, for many Aries people, something happening over this 2-week period, something that's revealed to you that's quite shocking, that's quite surprising, that you didn't even know was going on behind the scenes. That can come up too. And you'll have to deal with it in order to progress and go forward. But, and here we move on. The solar eclipse coming up in Libra, this period of the moon moving between these two houses is the time when we actually start to move into a sense of lightness, because we've let go during the eclipse gateway. And by the time the moon gets to noon in Libra, we are ready to start something new. We've created space in our life for something new to enter in. Now, it could be, for Aries people, a new partnership, a new collaboration, a new contract that presents itself. It might be also some sort of a new audience that we want to relate to, new clients that we want to draw in. So perhaps even a new business. This is a business house. So I feel for many Aries people, this letting go process that I've talked about is going to take you ultimately into a new beginning and a new start, and lots of action and energy that you're going to direct into relationships, connections, partnerships, contracts, like I said, collaborations, and maybe new business affairs. Starting a new business even might be on the cards for many Aries people. So that's what I'm seeing for our wonderful Aries friends. Taurus rising, Taurus sun, Taurus moon people. Well, the eclipse occurred in Pisces, and this eclipse gateway period is playing out between the 11th house Pisces for a Taurus person and the solar eclipse house, which is the 6th house. And we'll talk more about that next week in next week's video about the solar eclipse. But this is the gateway period as the moon moves between these two houses, the 11th and the 6th. So this is a time of growth and awakening and change regarding your friendships, regarding your networks. This is a time where you're going to be saying, you know, are my friends really supporting me? Are they really helping me? Do I need to change my friendships? Do I need to change my community group or my connections? Do they need to be renewed in some way? So it's a time of releasing and ending certain friendships in your life in order to make space for the new that will come in. And so there might be certain, maybe you've been carrying some animosity towards somebody in the group that you haven't dealt with. This eclipse gateway period is going to kind of force that issue to be addressed. It's going to make sure that you leave no stone unturned regarding relationships of a more friendship dynamic in your life. Also dreams, goals, aspirations are very 11th house, and you might be awakening to some new dream, new goal now. So Taurus, you might have thought, you were going to head down the road of being a chocolatier like Juliette Binoche in one of my favorite films, Chocolat. And, that was your goal, your dream. You're going to go to France, to a little village and open up a chocolaterie, meet Johnny Depp, and it's all going to be fantastic. That dream might be going through a transformation now, Taurus. There's a awakening to the cost is going to be quite extensive. I don't think I'm going to really meet Johnny Depp. Gosh, what am I going to do instead? And you can be transforming your dream and your goal into something else, a renewed dream and goal. But to do so requires letting go of the original dream. And this period, this eclipse gateway, is when that ending occurs, that realization happens, that evolution into a new dream, a new goal will take place. So it's releasing, it's letting go in order to make space for the new dream and aspiration to enter into your life. Now, also, this is a house of gainfulness and profit. So some of you, not all of you Taurus people, but some of you Taurus people might be letting go of what you thought was going to be an avenue for gainfulness in order to change how gainfulness unfolds in your life. So there could be an ending of, the way you're earning money. Like the 11th house is how we earn money from our job, what we put out there in the world, our career, our ambitions. This is the money we earn from it. Second house is not about that. Second house is a different financial area altogether. 11th house is our rewards, our accolades, our remuneration for what we put out. And that could be changing. It could be altering and transforming. So you might get a promotion, you might get a demotion, and you might realize, I haven't got enough money to cut the mustard anymore. I'm going to need to start a side hustle. But there is a change because something is being released in order to make space for the new. And we'll talk about the new in just a second. So, this is one of the focuses for Taurus people, a change in finances in terms of the rewards you're getting for what you put out there in the world. Now, the moon's going to move from 11th house Pisces to 6th house Libra in readiness for the solar eclipse, and this is the eclipse gateway period that I've been talking about. And so the new that's coming in is going to be pertaining to your everyday work. Now, I've talked about remuneration for what you do. Some of you might realize, I haven't got enough money to pay the bills, 6th house, so I'm going to go and do something else and add that in. I'm going to start a market stall selling my crafts or my jams or whatever it is on the weekends, and that's going to sort of supplement my income because the 6th house is our daily work that we do to pay the bills. So that might be the case for some Taurus people, and you'll have a lot of energy and a lot of action that you can put into this everyday dynamic. And that's actually good because out of this period, because of this change that's occurred out of this period, you might end up having the next Paul Newman's relish company, the equivalent. I'm using this analogy of selling jams and relishes and things like that at a market, but it could be anything. This is how you're paying the bills could actually turn into a wonderful new source of gainfulness for you down the track. So you've got to trust. This is the challenge of the eclipses, is trusting the process is leading you where you need to be in order to align with your soul's purpose and the vision that your soul came in with. So this is about getting back on track with what you truly want to do in your life to pay the bills and to align with your soul's purpose. So this is our daily life, how we work to pay the bills is going to go through a change. Your dreams and goals might change, We talked about opening a chocolaterie in France. You might decide, I need to be a bit more practical and grounded about what I want to do with my dreams and goals and aspirations. And so you might be looking to open a coffee shop which includes a bit of, chocolate and chocolatery kind of stuff, but mostly it's fulfilling everybody's coffee needs, So there's a change that becomes more practical, more less decadent and more service oriented in the sign of, Libra. The 6th house is what I'm trying to say. So this space that's being created in terms of dreams, goals, aspirations, and rewards is shifting to something more practical now, something that is more service oriented, something that is going to help you in your everyday, day-to-day life. And I would also suggest that the transformation and the space that's being created is going to help you live a healthier life, because that's what the 6th house is about too. It's about being more balanced. It's about, bringing more balance into your life. The 6th house is imbalance, but this eclipse gateway process is going to create the space that's needed to get rid of that imbalance and help you set up a life that's more in alignment with what you want to be in terms of health, well-being, financial steadiness, and all that sort of thing. So it is more positive, it is more aligned, but you've got to trust the process. The months ahead are going to be filled with a lot of new energy, new action regarding your health, regarding your finances, regarding how you pay the bills every week to week. So that's what I'm feeling into for our Taurus friends. Eclipse Gateway for Gemini rising, Gemini sun, and Gemini moon people is going to be impacting the 10th house where the eclipse occurred. Let me just get my little walkie thing. Where the eclipse occurred in the 10th house for Gemini people. And also the eclipse gateway period lasts from the moon moving from Pisces all the way around to Libra, where it will be new with the sun. And this is occurring in the 5th house for Gemini people. So what this means is this is a time of this 2-week period is a time of growth, awakening, and change regarding 10th house. So 10th house might be your public image. It could be going through a very significant shift right now, a very big change. How the world perceives you might be being transformed. They might have seen you as a real hard ass. Dave and I have been watching Breaking Bad recently on the suggestion of my 2 sons who love it. And in it, there's this period in the 2nd season where Jesse, one of the protagonists, is perceived as being a real hard ass. I won't give you the dynamics of why, but he's perceived as being a hard ass. And then word gets out that he's actually not really. And so his public image changes from someone who'd do anything for money to someone who's a bit of a softie, really. And so this shift is what we're talking about here that can occur as a result of this eclipse, Gemini. There's transformation in public image, how the world sees you, what they know you as for some reason or another. Now, this could be everybody out on YouTube land, or it could be everybody in your street. It could be everybody in your local community perceives you in a different way because of something. Maybe you're a hero. Maybe something happens during the eclipse that gives you a chance to be more well known. You rescue somebody from, drowning or something like that, and your face is all over the paper, and everybody's like, man, I didn't think that guy would have it in him, but look, he's such a hero, blah, blah, blah. That kind of thing, Gemini. The eclipse brings about an opportunity for you to change your public image. And that can be good, Sometimes we get discouraged because, we think people perceive us a certain way and, I've made some mistakes in life and blah, blah, blah. This eclipse is giving you chances to up-level that and to make things right. So there can be a real letting go of an old public image, an old reputation, so that you can make space for a new reputation that wants to come in. You might be feeling that it's, you might find that some hidden truths come out now about who you are in the public realm. People might have seen you as one thing, and now the truth comes out about who you really are. And I would just hope that all my Gemini followers hear that the truth coming out is something really good, not something really negative, because the truth can be revealed with an eclipse like this during the eclipse gateway. So the 10th house of Pisces. Now, it also could be that your father, because this is the house of the father, might be feeling tired and run down and worn out as a result of this eclipse energy. So, he might need a little time on his own, or just time to sort of rebalance himself. Check in on dad, make sure dad's okay, send dad some love, give him a phone call or pop in for a visit or something, if you can, during the eclipse gateway period, for sure. It also can be that your father might be going through some sort of ending in life, not perhaps literally him, but something in his life. Maybe he's retiring. Maybe he has realized that he can no longer, ride 30 miles a day because of his state of health or something, so he's letting go of his exercise routine or something. This can be a time of change and release and transformation for a father figure that happens now too during this eclipse gateway period. So check in on dad, give dad lots of love. This is the realm of the chart that has to do with how we gain recognition and success. And so the eclipse here can sort of bring in some new opportunity that you can utilize. It's an open door. You've got to grab it and run with it for attaining recognition and success. Maybe somebody at work in your career says, we've got this position on this steering committee available. Does anybody want to join the steering committee? And you're like, should I, shouldn't I? Here could be, for Gemini people, an opportunity for more recognition and more success in a work context by taking that open door to jump on the steering committee or whatever the situation for a project might be. What else can I say about this? Yes, this is our worldly power. It's our visible actions. It's also considered to be a house that is connected to dharma and purpose and meaning in life. So that can be going through a transformation as well. Sort of whatever has given you meaning in the past might be really being dissolved now, in order that some new dharma, new purpose comes in. And let's face it, our purpose and meaning can change many times in the course of a life. We don't just get born and from the day dot where we've got a purpose of being CEO of a mining company. That can alter and shift depending on our age and life circumstances and the people in our lives. So there might be a shifting of purpose, a shifting of dharma that needs to happen. But first there is a releasing that might be occurring, Gemini. Now, the eclipse gateway period of this releasing and letting go is happening over the course of time from the moon moving from Pisces to Libra. And by the time it gets to the solar eclipse in Libra, which I'll talk further about in the upcoming video next week, do tune in for that one. This is going to be a time when we start to feel more space in our life that could allow us to just have a bit more breathing space. We make enough changes in our day-to-day career that we can now focus a little more on our hobbies, that we can get a little bit more joy out of life, that we can maybe experience some sort of creativity. Because we've changed our reputation, because we've changed our purpose as this eclipse gateway unfolds, we now find that perhaps an old hobby we used to love comes back to us. We got time to get out the sewing machine when it's been gathering, mothballs and cobwebs for years perhaps, and we get the sewing machine out and we start making some dresses or some curtains or something like that. Because we've got a bit more time, we've changed our public profile to such an extent that we've got time to focus on our hobbies or focus on our joy. Maybe you love bushwalking or getting out and going hiking in nature, and you have time for that now. There is space being created in your life that allows and facilitates more fifth house things, and you might find that leading on from the solar eclipse that occurs in the fifth house that you're going to have more energy, more enthusiasm to give to your hobbies going forward. Also to give to your children, to give to your lovers as well. Time and space has been created because of the shifting eclipse gateway for you to be able to give attention and energy and action to these new creative endeavors, hobbies, children who need your time and love and care, and lovers, boyfriends, girlfriends who need your time and love and care as well. So that's what I'm feeling into for our Gemini rising sun or moon friends. Now moving on to Cancer. Cancer rising, Cancer sun, Cancer moon people. We are in the Eclipse Gateway, and this is affecting, Cancer friends, this is affecting your 9th house, where the lunar eclipse occurred, and the eclipse gateway will last for 2 weeks until the moon gets around to Libra, your 4th house. 9th and 4th tied together here. So this is a period of growth and awakening and change regarding 9th house things and transformation of 9th house things. Maybe you've been waiting, Cancer, for a visa to come through, or some immigration papers, or approval of your, moving to another country or something, relocating to a foreign country. And now this eclipse energy in the 9th house allows that to happen. You let go of the waiting for such things to arrive, and they can come to you as a result of this eclipse. There's an ending of the waiting game for a visa for many of you Cancer people now. There's an end and a concluding energy and a letting go of anything perhaps pertaining to a university degree or some course in higher knowledge. Maybe you've been umming and ahhing for months about, should I do Kesenya's Royal Stars Academy or not? And now this eclipse brings about an awareness of, you know what, I should. I'm going to dive right in, boots and all. It could be any university course where there's been maybe a waiting period or a time of indecision, and now this is a time of releasing that indecision and that waiting game in order for you to move into the new that wants to unfold. So that could be, like I said, to do with a university degree, relocation, could be about travel. Some of you Cancer people might be carving out some holiday time for you to travel, or maybe making a work trip for yourself. Some sort of also the 9th house has to do with travel to expand the soul and the mind as well. Adventure travel and that sort of thing is associated with the 9th house. So there can be certainly some release of blockage around doing such things as well. Now, you might be feeling this is the house in Vedic astrology of the father. And this is an energy to the eclipse gateway when hidden truths can come to the surface. So you might be finding out something about your dad that is very important, or your family, your father's family, that can be very life-changing now. There's some revelations that occur during the eclipse gateway regarding a father figure. If not a father figure, it could be some sort of person of inspiration or a benefactor in your life. You're finding out some truth about them. Something is being revealed as a result of the eclipse gateway. This is also the house of, in Vedic astrology, they do consider it to be one of the houses of spouse. But in Western astrology, we see it as the second life partner, the higher love. Basically, the soulmate house is the 9th house. So if you are married for the second time, or if you are married to a soulmate, then this eclipse energy is causing something to change and shift in the life of the spouse. It could be that your spouse is becoming more connected to the divine, or they're finding that their life is freed up in some way, made more light, made more spacious. Their energy is less worried, is less burdened as a result of this eclipse. So that's a blessing to the spouse. It can also be a blessing to you, Cancer, because this is the house of your dharma and purpose in life, along with the 10th house. So you might be transforming what you felt always was your purpose, might be changing now. Maybe you always felt, Cancer, that you wanted to be an author, and you've written books and they're hiding up on the top shelf of your cupboard, and you've tried to get them published with various publishing houses. You've tried the self-publishing route, and you're like, I'm just, this has been my purpose and my meaning, but you know what? I'm going to shift this because it's not fruiting for me, and this eclipse can bring change and transformation, and you let go of the idea of being an author and you decide, I'm going to be the teacher. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, teaching energy. You might decide, that's it, I'm going to take what I've put into my books and I'm going to do online webinars, online courses. Just for example, I'm talking about Dharma, I'm talking about purpose, and I'm giving an illustration. It doesn't mean everybody's an author or an online teacher. But I'm using this as an illustration to say a shift, a change in direction of Dharma is what is likely to occur now during the Eclipse Gateway. You will get this inspiration. I would also encourage you to rest if you're feeling tired, because in taking time out, in breathing, in having a lie in the sun, in having that cup of tea while you look at the clouds outside in the sky, out the window, in doing such things, that's when the inspiration comes. That's when this eclipse energy begins to shift. When we rest, this is a Pisces eclipse. We need to rest in order for the dynamic to change. So please do so, my beautiful Cancer friends. And that way you can feel into your spiritual growth and your spiritual development. Finally, Cancer, I do want to say that this is a house of luck, and this eclipse may be triggering some transfer. This eclipse that occurred may have triggered some lucky situations that you will find out about in the course of the Eclipse Gateway. A time when you really, the truth is revealed. Maybe some luck has come your way, maybe through an inspirational benefactor or father figure, some luck comes to you. And this leads to a sense of lightness. This leads to a sense of space, because that's how the Eclipse Gateway works, as I said in the introduction. And that then results in new beginnings, new energy, new alignment with self, and the direction of self in this lifetime pertaining to fourth house things. So that can mean space in your life is created to relate more to your family, to have a better home life, to maybe find a new house that's more suited to your purposes and the lifestyle that you're living. All of these things that I described in the ninth house now start to express energetically going forward from the solar eclipse, which I'll talk more about next week, from house, home, family, lineage, heritage, and community. And you might find, Cancer, that the luck comes to your place of living, that luck comes through the family, that purpose and Dharma is now more tied to the community that you're living in, that a relocation occurs more easily. Your place of living shifts and change because you get your visa through, and now you can set some roots down and get settled where you are because things are more stabilized in that area. There is a link between ninth house and fourth house here. So this eclipse gateway period is very powerful for such things. Thank you, my beautiful Cancer rising, sun and moon people. Okay, if you're Leo rising, Leo sun, or Leo moon people, well, the lunar eclipse occurred in your 8th house. And during the 2 weeks after the eclipse, the moon moves through all of these houses and ends up in a new moon position in the sign of Libra, where we're having a solar eclipse. And this period is known as the Eclipse Gateway. I described all about it in the intro. Do check that out if you haven't done so already. But this means that we are going through, in this 2-week period, significant growth, awakening, and change pertaining to the 8th house. My God, Leo, you of all signs are going to go through the biggest transformation in this gateway period. Absolutely. Because the 8th house is about complete redirectioning. So this eclipse for you, Leo, is about changing life that was heading down one road to another road. Maybe you were just constantly burdened, Leo, with financial worries and feeling like there's crisis just around the corner and the rug's going to be pulled out from underneath you. And something happens as a result of this eclipse gateway period. And all of a sudden it's like, okay, now life's facing this way. And I feel more empowered. I don't worry so much. I'm getting better sleep at night because this shift and transformation has occurred away from one way of experiencing life to lightness, joy, opportunity. Just an example. I'm not saying it's going to play out that way for everyone, but what I am saying is a transformation of how you're doing life is what's going to come during this eclipse gateway. And often that means letting go to make space for the new. So it's my prayer for all the Leos watching this that they are letting go of worry and fear and heaviness in order to move into more lightness. But to do so, Leo, this is really a time of doing some introspective work, of going deep, because the 8th house has to do with psychology and understanding the self. That's why it rules astrology, that's why it rules psychology, and that's why it rules therapeutic work. So this eclipse, lunar eclipse, and the gateway to follow is all about, focused on making space for the new deep within your psyche. So I would encourage you, Leo, to support that process. Really get stuck into some therapy work. That could be doing some art therapy. If you've got some spare time, just do some automatic drawing of whatever comes to mind. You can be absolutely astounded by the deep psychological meaning in random scribbles that just come out when you just let yourself go. Art therapy is profound. Dance therapy, very good. I'm a Leo sun. I'm very drawn at the moment to doing dance therapy, because in dancing, I dance for an hour, go through various different rhythms, and I find that all this old muck comes to the surface, like my sadnesses, my wounding, my frustrations, and I cry them out because the energy is flowing. This is a house of energy, and the energy is moving to release it. Good therapy, dance therapy, music therapy. Listen to the musical vibration, and that could be, anything from Bach to listening to the didgeridoo play and the vibration of a percussion instrument that interacts with the vibration of our soul. I truly believe the 8th house has lots of connections to vibration energy. It is the gateway to energetic dimensions, is the 8th house. And so for many of you Leo people, changing your vibration is a big part of what is going to unfold. So support that by listening to vibrational music. Maybe you want to take some homeopathics, some Bach flower remedies, that kind of thing can change your vibration. Read up about vibrational medicine and utilize this energy, because it is going to help the releasing process that is unfolding during this gateway period, the 2 weeks between eclipses. It's going to help pull things out of you that have been buried deep within and release them, so that you've got more psychological space to move into whatever the next phase of life holds. Brings up the hidden truth. So therapy, and I've described some therapies here, maybe reading a therapeutic book, reading some sort of psychological analysis book, reading astrology books. I encourage you to jump into, my Leo friends, to support this process right now, to lead you to a place of lightness. Also, this is the house, just to conclude this section of the reading, this is also the house that has to do with our partner's resources, our business partner, our spouse, our other people's resources are seen through the 8th house, and there can be some transformation and change of partner's resources. If partner's resources have been burdened, that might be being let go of. If there's been sort of debts or responsibilities or limitation on the resources of your partner, that can be being released through some circumstance now. If the partner's resources have been, I was going to say overblown, but that's not really the case. Like, there can be windfalls that come to a partner now because it's letting go of maybe a difficulty or maybe a certain financial situation, and this is a house of windfalls. So that can actually happen for some people during this eclipse gateway as well. Not for everyone, but for some people. And I just want to say, Leo, if you want to shift the energy of perhaps your partner's financial situation and your relationship to your partner's financial situation, work on changing the vibration, work on the therapy. I just can't stress it enough. Those who are spiritual know that when you change yourself within, and that's what this lunar eclipse is all about, changing the self within changes the circumstances without. The work of Veda Austin, who I had the privilege to hear speak at the recent, the event that I attended in Palm Springs last October. Brilliant speaker, brilliant evidence for vibration and the power of vibration to change even things like the water that we interact with on a daily basis and the water that is within us. We have such a great power to change our life through changing vibration. So I just want to encourage you to that end. You want to change your relationship with your partner's resources and your interaction with that kind of dynamic, the emotional support you get from others, the physical support, the financial support you get from others. If you want to change that dynamic, change your vibration, my friends. But okay, that aside, the eclipse gateway is occurring between these houses, and it's going to end up expressing through the solar eclipse that will occur in Libra. This is where you're going to feel a sense of lightness, a sense of more alignment and new energy and action pushing forward. And for our Leo friends, it's in the third house. All of these eventualities are going to lead you to perhaps have a more successful business, have a more successful skill set. So you are going to be able to put more energy into learning something new, creating a new skill set, more energy and action as a result of this space that's being created, more energy and action into a business or making money using your hands. Maybe you're a hairdresser, maybe you're a craftsman of some sort, could even be that you're a teacher. You are going to have more energy to do those things, to teach others, to run your small business, to cut people's hair, whatever it may be that is a third house related sort of business. Third house is buying and selling. So there's going to be more space in your life for those sorts of things. You're going to feel lighter and more enthusiastic about learning, about sharing, about business and so forth, these third house dynamics. And even Libra, you might even feel that there's a renewal of energy between you and a neighbor or a sibling or just a friendship in general as a result of this eclipse gateway period. Virgo rising, Virgo sun, Virgo moon people, the eclipse energy for Virgos has occurred in the 7th house, but we're in the eclipse gateway now, and this means that for the 2 weeks between eclipses, it's the 3rd house and the solar eclipse house, which I'll talk more about in the next week's video rather. The solar eclipse energy, which is expressing through the 2nd house, where the eclipse gateway is going to be felt. So the eclipse gateway means that a relationship, a connection is going to go through some sort of awakening and change. It's going to be transformed. So maybe you're already in a relationship, Virgo. That relationship during this eclipse gateway is going to be changed. It's going to be renewed. Hopefully it will be refreshed and reinvigorated. For some of you Virgo people, it could be that this eclipse gateway period is a time of releasing a relationship that did not have the capacity for renewal and refreshing. And that could be a business partnership. It could be a client. It could be a woman who was significant in your life that you're now letting go of. It doesn't have to be, sort of the business partnership, the marriage partnership, and so forth. It could be that this lunar eclipse occurred and you're saying goodbye to a significant woman in your life. If it is a type of relationship that doesn't have the legs to be reinvigorated as a result of the eclipse. Oh, scratching my third eye. That's a message for somebody for sure. You might feel that the relationships in your life have just drained you. They have left you feeling lethargic and exhausted. So I encourage you, Virgo, if you're feeling that way, rest. Put your feet up. Don't feel like you've got to go out of your way to overgive and overinvest in the people who've drained you. You can sort of walk away from that now, have some time out to reflect and some space on your own, and it will help you reach appropriate conclusions about the nature of those relationships and whether they're worth keeping. This is a period, this eclipse gateway, when truths about people come out. You are going to see the truth about maybe certain women in your life, maybe husbands, wives, business partners, collaborations, contractual agreements. The truth comes out about it. Some of you might be finding that you signed a contract and it had some little writing down the bottom that's leaving you in a really bad position now. The truth comes out. You realize the fine, what do they call it? The hidden writing in the contract was not in your favor. And that is revealed through something that happens between now and the solar eclipse. Some of you might be finding that the behavior of a woman in your life that you thought was, all above board and was, she was backing you and she was there in your court. The truth was she was going behind your back and she was being deceptive and she was actually not fighting for you, but quite the opposite. Some of you might find out that your partner had an affair. Some of you might find out that a business partner was, squirreling money away. Now, I've used negative hidden truths and hidden energy to describe the various partnerships that this could be expressing through. It doesn't have to be negative. I've just used that as an illustration. Let's use a positive illustration. Some of you might find out that your husband was putting money into a bank account to take you on a special surprise holiday. And that comes out now. He surprises you and says, you know what, I've been saving money for a year now. We're going to go to Europe. We're going to go do that tour of Europe that we've always wanted to do. Could be something like that. So some hidden truth regarding a partner and something that a partner's been doing comes out and is revealed. The other way that this can express is that this eclipse gateway period brings about transformation in the partner, not just in the relationship, but maybe in the partner. They are changing. Maybe they're starting a new job, or maybe they're looking to relocate. Quite honestly, my brother is a Virgo, and so interesting. He's just announced to the family on the day of the eclipse, it's just occurring to me now, on the day of the eclipse, that his wife, partner here, has got a new job. And therefore he is about to get a new job in the part of the city where her new job is, and they're going to move. Like big changes coming about because of partnership. So this is what we're talking about, a change in a partner that affects us, or a change in a partner's experience and life that is then affecting us. So big shifts, big changes. And of course, this is all leading to the eclipse gateway over 2 weeks to feeling more space, feeling more lightness, feeling more energy and more action in our second house. So for many of you Virgo people, you are, as a result of this energy, you are going to be able to move now into maybe creating more resources for yourself. So I'll use my brother's illustration, actually. This is going to give him the means, both he and his wife will now have higher paying jobs, and they're going to be able to save more. Second house is savings. They're going to be able to buy a house that's a little cheaper than where they were, so they can sell their current house, come away with a bit of a profit, and invest that profit into a new dwelling. So the second house is our resources, our stuff. It's tied to what we earn, because obviously where do we get our money from? What we do for a living. But it's more about our savings, our rainy day account, our ability to feel safe and secure financially. So this is, whatever happens here is going to enable you to therefore create more security and stability in your life. And this, my brother's beautiful example, actually, they're going to be able to put more energy into creating a more financially solid and secure position for themselves in life. So fantastic in that way. Also, this is about this eclipse gateway is about coming into alignment with purpose. And so again, I'll use my brother's illustration. His wife getting a new job, which has led to him getting a job in a different part of town and moving a house, is going to bring them more into alignment with their purpose, give them more energy and action around creation of resources, and increase in self-worth, increase in self-value, which is a second house thing. So there's going to be more positive alignment with their worthiness, because they've moved out of an old job that wasn't kicking it for them into a new job that feels much more rewarding, much more affirming, and in alignment with their sense of value of self. So that's an example, Virgo, of how this is expressing. Whatever is happening that I've described regarding spouse and the changes in relationship there is going to ultimately lead to a shift in self-worth, self-value, and your ability to have and save your resources. What I'm hearing everybody going, but I'm not in a relationship. How does this apply to me? Well, maybe you have a client. Maybe you have a contractual situation. That can be a contract for a house, or a contract for a project, a contract for a builder to come and do something. Any contract is a seventh house connection. Maybe you've got a client, maybe you've got a contract, maybe you've got an audience, maybe you are in a business partnership. You know, if you hire an advertiser, that's a business partnership. If you, get somebody to make you astro wheels, that is a business partnership that you've got going on. Any kind of business partnership is seen through the seventh house. So those things that I've just described are the same dynamic. Shifting, changing, releasing, growing, making space in those things so that new things can enter in that are going to help you feel stable and solid and secure and more valued and useful going forward into the future. That's what this Eclipse Gateway is all about. Thank you, Virgo. Libra rising, Libra sun, Libra moon people. Well, the energy of the lunar eclipse occurred in your sixth house. We talked all about that last week, but now we're in the eclipse gateway period that is all about moving from one energy to another and covering this 2-week period of the moon moving halfway around the horoscope. So this is expressing growth and transformation and change and renewal for my Libran friends in the sixth house. This means that this eclipse gateway period is going to allow you to change your everyday routine. You know, maybe you've been worried, my beautiful Librans, about where the money's coming from to pay the bills day after day. Maybe you've felt overburdened with all the responsibilities and duties for paying the bills and keeping everybody in the family healthy and, sorting out problems and issues and struggles in life. Maybe you felt like it's all on your shoulders and it's overwhelming you, Libra. This eclipse gateway period is going to allow you to change that. And you're going to feel ultimately, as this 2-week period goes on, lighter, freer, more liberated regarding the day-to-day life that you're living. Who's making the dinner? Who's paying the electricity bill? And so forth. There is a shifting of energy, a releasing, a letting go. And for many Librans, I feel that this is about letting go of an overburdening responsibility in those areas of life. You can feel lighter now. You can feel freer now. Something in life is allowing you to let go of those heavy sixth house energies. The struggles that you've been having might be shifting and changing and transforming. The conflicts, the enemies, you might be dissolving out of your life now as a result of this eclipse. And this is happening over the next 2 weeks. Now, some of you Librans, and I'll vouch for this as a Libran moon, might be feeling more drained and tired. As I spoke of in the introductory session of this video, oh my God, 4 hours after the eclipse occurred, I just wanted to go curl up in bed. I was exhausted. The eclipse was over. The energy of, anticipation and running was done. Poof, had it. And my everyday routine suffered, Libra. My ability to go make the dinner and clean up the dishes and everything. I was just like, no, I'm going to have a sleep because I'm done. And that's part of this energy. If you feel tired, it's time to take some time out in this 2-week eclipse gateway period. Because when we do, that's when we get the epiphanies. That's when we get the aha moments. That's when we get the enlightenment about how we're going to move forward with our everyday routine, with our health and our well-being. Speaking of health and well-being, the eclipse occurring here is going to affect our ability to get out and exercise. You know, you might have been up and at them 6 o'clock in the morning every day this week to go for a walk, but then along comes the eclipse gateway and you're like, you know what, I'm just going to take it a little bit easy today. I might just do some weights in the morning and I'll leave my walk alone. There's a shift in how we are looking after our body. And it doesn't mean that it's always going to stay the case that you're too tired to get out there and exercise, Libra, but it does mean that it's time to change your exercise routine and make space for the new. So that might be incorporating some new type of exercise, some new kind of diet into your lifestyle. There's a letting go of the old way of doing things. Some of you Librans might be realizing your body can't really handle lifting those heavy weights any longer, or maybe you've only been going for walks and you realize your body needs more, so you need to start doing some strength exercises as well. There's an ending and a letting go of how you've always done it regarding diet and exercise too. So a change that's happening, and you're going to realize this more and more as we go through this eclipse gateway. So there's some of the focuses for Librans. Also Libra, this eclipse energy, this is about pulling things out that have been buried deep within. And though most of the time this is about inner work, inner psychological work, I'm going to say for you Librans, it's actually about the physical. And what I mean by that, it's about cleaning out the cupboard as well as cleaning out the soul, pulling things out that you've buried away up the back of your wardrobe or up the back of the linen closet that need to be released. You know, when we declutter our homes, which is very much a sixth house energy, when we declutter our homes, we clear the energy and we make space for the new. And I just want to encourage you Librans, this is definitely, the eclipse gateway period is the time for doing that. You know, sort out those books. If you haven't read a book or it's been sitting on your shelf since you were a teenager and, you know, you've never picked it up since, maybe it's time that book went to the Salvation Army. Or maybe those stockings that you bought back for your year 12 formal or your year 12 fancy dress, and, you know, that was 30 years ago, time for those stockings to perhaps also go to the Salvation Army. You know what I'm saying? Clear out the clutter. Let those things that are, that are sort of perhaps draining the energy of your home space and your everyday life through creating too much clutter, too much disorganization, let those things go. It's time for making things lighter and freer. So Libra, the energy that we're seeing of this eclipse gateway is going to conclude in the house of you. And this is quite exciting because as we go through this process, this sense of lightness is going to happen in the sixth house, but it's going to result in a change in you, a lighter feeling in you, a releasing of heavy energy in you. Now, obviously, if your daily routine becomes more manageable, Libra, then you're going to feel better about life and you're going to be a nicer person to be around. You're going to be funnier. You're going to be more engaged because you're not burdened by responsibility. So there's a change in you, obviously. If your health routine changes so that you feel fitter and stronger and ultimately more energetic, then it's going to help you. Now, that is going to be the case. You're going to feel lethargic for the first few days after the eclipse, but then you'll shift the energy into something that is more action-oriented, more energized, more enthusiastic, and you, first house Libra, are going to be more, just more vigorous, have more vitality. So that's why I say rest if you feel like you need resting, because ultimately you're going to have more get up and go than you can imagine at the time of the solar eclipse, which I'll talk more about next week. So this is creating space for your body to be more invigorated now by changing your health routine and your diet and so forth. It's changing your energy. It's, by decluttering the soul, but also by decluttering the house. It's changing the personal energy that you have, the aura that you have, the sense of lightness and well-being that is in your persona, your personality now. That will change too by addressing these sixth house concerns. So to my mind, this eclipse gateway period is very important for personal transformation. If you deal with the everyday ordinary things of life, it will shift everything for you, my beautiful Librans. All right, Scorpio rising, Scorpio sun, and Scorpio moon people. The eclipse in Pisces occurred in your 5th house, and you are in the eclipse gateway. We're all in the eclipse gateway right now that is unfolding between the lunar eclipse in Pisces and the solar eclipse in Libra. This is a 2-week period. I talked about it in the introduction if you want to know more. But what this means is that you are going through a period of awakening that has to do with the 5th house. So awakening to new creative urges in you, new desire for new hobbies. Maybe you might be changing some hobbies. Maybe you might be enhancing or growing some old hobbies that you've had. There is a transformation, perhaps in the lives of your children, or a renewal in the lives of your children. Maybe your children are starting something new. Maybe they are redirectioning their life and transforming their life in some way. Maybe your children are letting go. Maybe you're letting go of children. Maybe you're letting go of a lover or a boyfriend or a girlfriend. There's a releasing in order to make space for the new for many Scorpio people. But this is as it should be. You might feel as a result of what's unfolding that you're a bit tired, and maybe dealing with your children and your children's circumstances leaves you feeling a bit lethargic. Take a rest if you need to, and I would encourage you to rest by doing something creative. Maybe do a drawing or coloring book, or do a dance or something that can help get you to sort of just chill out from the everyday. Resting is part of this eclipse gateway energy, and the eclipse occurred in the 5th house of creativity. So you want to combine having a bit of a break, having a bit of a rest with something that is creative for you. Lots of people love coloring books these days. I personally don't have time myself, but it is a source of resting, if you would like, by just to lose yourself in a coloring book or some other creative activity. The 5th house is also fun. So what you do for fun might be changing. You might have to deal with some old, this is not really to do with fun, but some old wounds that you've pushed away and forgotten about, maybe in your childhood, because this is the house of our inner child. And you might be dealing with some memories from childhood, or inhibitions or blockages put upon you in your childhood that you'd forgotten about. It's time to release them. Maybe you were told as a child, stop spending your time doing that colouring in and get in here and do the dishes. And that's a wound that maybe you carry now that's coming through from your inner child around spending time doing a colouring book or doing anything creative. Lo and behold, Scorpio, this is a 2-week period where you can be like, you know what, I'm going to deal with that hang up I've got around doing colouring in, feeling like I always should be helping instead of, just taking time out to just be joyful and do my thing. Now it's time to deal with that old wound from childhood that you'd pushed away or forgotten about, and allow yourself to do your hobbies. Allow yourself to be creative. Allow yourself to just let go and have fun with no purpose other than to have joy. Nothing useful about it, nothing productive. And I get get me on my bandwagon here. I get so sick of people who think you should always just only be doing productive things. No, joy comes from just doing what you love. And that is what Spirit loves to see us invested in, doing what we love. When we do what we love, that's when we discover our true self. When we're just being a productive machine, that's when we lose ourselves quite significantly. So take the time, Scorpio, to just be you, doing you, whatever gives you joy, whatever gives you fun. And when you do so, the results are going to be expressed at the end of this 2-week eclipse gateway period in the 12th house. This is when you're going to really resolve past issues, heal past wounds, which we've talked about this. But that's 12th house energy. 12th house is the past. And really connect with your higher self. Connect and align with the divine. 12th house energy. 12th house is a house of miracles. That's where the solar eclipse is occurring. I will talk more about this in next week's video. But the eclipse gateway is going to end here, and you're going to create more space. If you go into joy, if you go into what brings you fun, you're going to create so much space and lightness in your life that's going to connect you with who you really are, your divine sense of self, and in doing so, that allows more miracles to occur. That's what this eclipse gateway is speaking of. Now, this doesn't always happen. Going into joy does not always allow miracles to unfold in your life. But I tell you what, this eclipse gateway, if you spend time investing in your joy, in your childlike heart, it's going to heal the past, change the vibration that has been perhaps with you for your whole lifetime, unblock certain areas, and allow miracles, 12th house energy, to flow through. But it's all about working with the eclipse gateway to the best of your advantage. And like I said, it's about having fun and being in your joy. That's where the change can really come in. So I'm excited for you, Scorpio people. If you can work with this energy, then who knows what can be accomplished. If you can really get back into those hobbies that you love, take some time for self and cease to be a productive machine for a time and just focus on being a joyful human, that's when miracles can happen. I love it, Scorpio. I hope you're blessed by this eclipse gateway period in a very powerful way. Thank you, Scorpio. Sagittarius rising, Sagittarius sun, and Sagittarius moon people. Well, we are in the eclipse gateway period right now. And this means that the lunar eclipse, which occurred in your 4th house, is in the process of transforming our lives as we lead up to the solar eclipse in your 11th house. I love this combination for Sagittarius people, because this is saying that you're in a period now, it's going to last 2 weeks, of growth, awakening, and change regarding the dynamic you have with family, or maybe what you've inherited from your family that has been present in your life. So some of you will be changing a family dynamic now, moving away from a family dynamic, releasing a family dynamic. For many people, we find, and I was blessed, and many people I know were blessed by having a lovely childhood that established their character in strong, healthy ways. But some people weren't privileged to know that. And for many people, there can be a transformation away from a difficult childhood, a processing of difficult burdens within that go back to our early childhood, which is 4th house, but also family lineages. You know, a lineage of difficult family energy might be being released as a result of this eclipse, might be excreted or pulled out of you now. So that can be a blessing for many people. In a more tangible, practical sense, for many Sagittarius people, there can be a transformation or change related to where you live and how you live in your domestic life. There can be a change regarding your mother as well. She might be going through some changes. Some hidden truth might come to the surface about your mother. You know, she might be going through, maybe she's deciding to retire. Maybe the truth about her health might be revealed. Maybe there's some old skeleton in the closet that mum's been keeping that she lets out of the bag as a result of this time. So definitely changes in these 4th house areas can be on the cards as a result of the energy of the eclipse gateway. And this is going to transform your life. You know, these things can be very transformative into understanding who you are and where you come from. This is the house of our lineage. So Sagittarius, there might even be some hidden truths about your emotional life that might be revealed to you. You know, maybe you've been, let's say, cranky pants. Somebody triggers you in some way and you lose it emotionally. And every time, but you've never really observed yourself in that state. Lo and behold, something happens during this eclipse gateway and you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was such a cranky pants whenever anybody, didn't clean their dishes, And do I really need to lose my shit in such a way over such a small trifling incident? No, I think I need to deal with my emotional reactions. I've used a negative example here. It could be a positive example, but for Sagittarius people, realization and then a letting go and an ending of a certain emotional triggering or emotional dynamic or emotional wound can happen as a result of the eclipse here, expressing over the duration of this eclipse gateway for 2 weeks. And that's going to lead you, Sagittarius, into a state of lightness. The eclipse gateway that we're talking about here is about dealing intensely with things, sometimes in a way that can make us feel very tired and drained as well. So rest up if you need to, because in resting, you're going to actually allow the epiphany to come through to deal with whatever family dynamic you need to deal with. But there can be change regarding a family situation, or a situation with property or land or real estate as well, that then ultimately leads to more rewards and gains, more space in your life that leads to gainfulness. Let me try and explain this through an example. The fourth house, let's say that, you're feeling very heavy. Let's say for Sagittarius, you've got some family land that's been in the family for years, and you've been umming and ahhing about whether you should sell, like everybody involved in this piece of family land, should we sell it, shouldn't we sell it, what should we do? Lo and behold, you decide to sell that family land, and let it go. Endings, releasing. That's what the eclipse here was all about, endings and releasings. And you sell the family land. What does it result in? Money in your pocket, gainfulness, 11th house energy. You've created that space by letting go of that family lineage energetically, selling it, and in comes 11th house things, the financial rewards and gains, the big money perhaps that gets in your pocket. So that's an example of how these two houses can tie together through this eclipse gateway to transform and change your life. Now, there's many ways that this might happen. Maybe you have a falling out with your mother and it results in becoming deeper friends with people who support you and rally around you, your networks who are like, yeah, we've got your back, don't worry about that. Maybe it happens through your domestic life. This eclipse maybe, brought some change. You're going to have to renovate your house because of something that happens, and it results in, I think we need to change our vision, our dream, our goal for our future. Maybe we need to sell our house instead of renovate it because of whatever happened, big flood or something like that happened in your house, and you decide you're not going to renovate, you're going to sell this house and you're going to build a new one, and you have this new goal, new dream, new vision for a family home that you're going to buy or build or whatever, and that's a shift in a goal or a dream, 11th house. So you can see how often with this eclipse gateway, these two themes of the eclipses tie together to form some kind of new direction, new alignment for the soul, and new action and energy that you can utilize going forward. So they're the kinds of themes that I'm seeing for this eclipse gateway and its effects on our Sagittarius rising, sun or moon people. Okay, Capricorn rising, sun or moon people. The eclipse occurred in your third house, and you probably heard me talk all about that in the video last week. But we're now in the eclipse gateway for 2 weeks as the moon moves from third house Pisces all the way around to your 10th house Libra. And this is the realm of life that is going to be impacted by the eclipse gateway, is these two houses between the eclipses. So what it means is in the first part of this eclipse gateway, and I explained what the eclipse gateway was in the introduction, please check it out if you haven't already. This is a period of growth and awakening and change. It's a time of transformation of your skill sets. You might be learning something new. You might be hosting a workshop. You might be making a shift in how you're dealing with your small business or a side hustle. There could be a shift in your communication. You might be changing your communication devices. You could even be changing cars. The transportation that you have might be changing as a result of this eclipse. But there's certainly a theme of letting go of these things because you want something new. And for some of you, there might be a feeling of tiredness, lethargy, you're a bit worn out in some way, and it's okay to rest. I've been saying this for everybody, but it's so true. It's okay to take a rest, because it's in resting, nana nap or just having a cup of tea and having a daydream time. It's in resting that you're going to be enlightened about the way forward. So don't be afraid to sort of have a bit of a break. This is Pisces energy after all, because it will lead to ultimately new beginnings that this eclipse is all about. So, you might need a mental break as well, mental rest. That's often the case with an eclipse energy gateway like this. So maybe you play computer games all day and it's time to sort of, go for a walk in nature and give yourself a mental break. Maybe you've been writing a great novel or something, or a biography, and, you need to go for a bike ride just to shift that mental focus and clear the head. This is very much about needing to clear the mind during this eclipse gateway period, so that you can let whatever needs to bubble up in you bubble up and be let go of. Thoughts can sometimes become very congested and very tangled up, and certainly this eclipse gateway energy for Capricorn people is designed to unravel and release, a knotted up mental state. Also, again, this can have to do with sort of anxiety and depression as well. You may be feeling that heavily, Capricorn, during this period of the eclipse gateway. If you're a Capricorn person, maybe something's happened in your life that's caused you to feel very low mentally. Guard your mental health, have a rest, take that time out, have a little holiday. Pisces is a holiday. If you need to take a weekend or a long weekend away just to sort of help clear the mental energy, by all means do so. It's very healthy for you, Capricorn. Now, where this is leading to is the purpose of this over this 2-week period is to create more space and lightness in your life. That's why I encourage you to take that mental break. It's designed to create more space and lightness. And ultimately, when we have the solar eclipse, which I'll talk about in next week's video, in the 10th house Libra, it's going to give more space, more lightness, more energy and enthusiasm and action directed into your career. So let's say, Capricorn, that you've had some bad news, okay? That's at the beginning of this eclipse season. Maybe, let's say somebody dumped you or something, and you got that bad news that they wanted to call an end to your relationship or something like that. And so your mental state got all tangled up, and you were like, so sad and so down and depressed for some reason. That's the beginning of this eclipse gateway, and it feels heavy and it feels hard, and you need to take time out, and you need to take time to reflect. You need to take time to clear the mental energy. But what it does is, by the time it gets around to the solar eclipse in Libra, you're like, you know what? I'm going to focus my attention now more on my career. I'm going to build my career instead of wallowing in my mental state. I'm going to throw myself into this new project. I might even, look at perhaps enhancing my worldly reputation by getting a new degree, or, going for a new promotion or something. We're going to uplift my worldly profile. I think it was Paulina Poroskova, the model who married the lead singer of the Cars, who said that success is the best revenge. What a fascinating statement that is. Kind of true too. It feels good when we've been let down and we're feeling less than, to succeed in life and say, well, I am still worthy, and here's my success to prove it. Not that we need to be successful in order to be a worthy person. I'm not saying that, but anyhow, that's the story that I'm telling with these two houses. Mental energy can be enhanced by a worldly success and feeling successful in the world. Look, there's other ways this can manifest as well. I've just given you a story about mental health, but this is also the realm of the chart that has to do with our small business. And so maybe there's been a need to change something with a small business, how you're approaching a small business. Maybe you need to add in some new dynamics or new approaches to, buying and selling to sort of enhance your things. So there's been some changing and some shifting, transformation with regard to your small business and how you're going about it. And that leads to greater success in the world. So it's as simple as that. Whatever the third house represents is where there's change and shifting of energy with this eclipse gateway period. And by the end of the eclipse gateway period, you're on trajectory to be more aligned with worldly success, greater career, better reputation, all those 10th house things. It's about aligning with your dharma for success in the world. So very exciting times in that regard for Capricorn, rising, sun or moon people. Aquarius, thank you for hanging in there till last, my Aquarian rising, sun or moon people. The energy of the lunar eclipse took place in your second house, but we are now in the eclipse gateway period, which means this is an energy that we're going to see over a 2-week period where things move, the moon particularly moves from Pisces around to Libra, where the next eclipse will occur. And this is the space of change that we are currently going through. What this means is for Aquarius people, there's going to be transformation, big transformation of what you keep to support your life. There might be some shifts and changes in, what you're hoarding. Now, let's say you are somebody who really believed in a rainy day bank account and you're funneling all your money into a rainy day bank account. Well, this eclipse might have triggered something where you had to spend the money in your rainy day bank account and you're like, I realize that's not necessarily the best backstop for me. Maybe what I want to do, and I'm just using this as an example, I'm not saying it's the truth, but maybe what you personally come to realize is that I want to stock up on food. I want to stock up on stewed apricots and peaches and plums. And so I'm going to gather from my friends' orchards and my orchard. I'm going to gather all this fruit and I'm going to actually put them in the steamer or the vacola, Fowler's vacola. I had to think of the name. And I'm going to create all these preserves. And you actually, change and shift your focus in storing, hoarding, keeping, creating a backstop, creating stability. You're going to change that to something else. And in this case, I've used the funny example of storing money, shifting to storing and preserving food. But it could be anything. Second house is what we hoard and what we keep to shore us up for the future. That's second house energy. Second house energy is about the resources that we've got in reserve to support our body's journey. It's not necessarily related to the money you make from your job. It's about what you're keeping and investing and saving to create more stability in your life to support your body and its journey. So as we go through this eclipse gateway period, we're going through this change and transformation of how we keep and store and preserve. Maybe you've been the kind of person who just spends money, throwing the money around, left, right, and center. And you go from, being somebody overly generous to someone who throws the money around like a man with no arms, to use an old Australian analogy there. And imagine, you've got no arms, so you're not throwing the money around at all. Silly analogy. But that's the shift that can occur. You can go from being generous to not being generous with this energy. But it's this eclipse has brought about some circumstance in your life that's caused a change in your approach to money, a change in your approach to resources and keeping and saving and having stability and security. Okay? So there's this shift that's coming with that as a result of this eclipse. Some of you might feel very drained. I've been saying this for all signs. It's an energy of feeling worn out and drained. And maybe you've been working really hard to create a sense of stability and security and self-sufficiency. And you feel exhausted. Let yourself rest. You've probably been, really doing the hard yards. And Pisces is an energy of rest. This eclipse gateway period is all about rest. And in doing so, we get a chance to reflect. How are we going with the resources that we've got to create stability in our life? How are we going with our sense of self-worth and self-value? You can reflect on that at this time. Take some time out to sort of, lie in the sun one afternoon and just daydream or think about how you value yourself and what your values are in life. All these things are likely to bubble to the surface and come up for you to review. You won't have to force it. It will just be there as a result of this Eclipse Gateway energy. You'll be exploring mentally those things. But as those things come up, those old wounds around self-worth and self-value emerge for you to release them and deal with them, you're going to ultimately experience a sense of lightness, Aquarius, a sense of release. And it's going to allow you to move into 9th house direction for the future. And that means you're going to have more energy to put into 9th house things and find more dharma and purpose and alignment with your true meaning as a result of going through that process of self-analysis and that I've described in taking some time out and taking a rest. Because this is where the solar eclipse is going to occur at the end of this gateway period. I'll talk about that more in next week's video, the solar eclipse. But let me just say that it's in 9th house things that you are going to feel that there's more space created in your life, that you become more positive because of 9th house things and more aligned because of 9th house things. So what does this mean? Well, you might find that there's an investment that you could put your money into that's foreign, from overseas. 9th house is things from other cultures. So you might be, resting, having some time out, and you realize, if I was to invest, 2nd house is investments, if I was to invest in my friend's Vietnamese restaurant, for example, in Australia, Vietnamese restaurant would be a different culture to the Australian culture. If I was to invest, 2nd house, in my friend's Vietnamese restaurant, I could actually, make some more resources for me to feel safer and secure in my life. So you maybe put some action and energy into doing that, and you feel very aligned with that approach. So investments in foreign things, foreign cultures, or faraway places, investments in, maybe you open a foreign bank account or something with this energy. It could also be investing in your education. Could give you a sense of security and stability for the future. Maybe you've been working at McDonald's and that's been, putting the food on the table, making a buck if you're a uni student or whatever. But you decide, not if you're a uni student, that doesn't fit my example. Let's just say you're fresh out of high school, you've taken a gap year, you're working at McDonald's and paying the bills with that, and you decide, I need to invest in my future. I'm going to go and study something at university because McDonald's is not enabling me to put money aside to save and create resources for the future. So you decide university is the way to go, and this realization may come for you during the Eclipse Gateway period. So for an Aquarius person, you might move into feeling more aligned by going to university. That's not going to be true for everybody, but it may. Maybe you are a grandparent and the 9th house rules grandchildren. So maybe you decide, I'm quite, well set up in my life. I've created my resources and, my savings and what have you. 2nd house, I really feel that it's going to be beneficial for me to invest in my grandchildren's future. And this is a good way to utilize the resources that I've accumulated over the course of my life. So this Eclipse Gateway period can be a time when you come to that realization of wanting to help your grandchildren, wanting to be a benefactor, 9th house, wanting to, be that source of blessing to your grandchildren. Another way that can express, there's so many ways that astrology can express. Honestly, I don't have time to go into the explanation of all the many ways and combinations this can express. And that's why I love you sharing in the comments section about how these things unfolded for you in alignment with the themes of what I'm talking about. So my friends, we are at the end of our chat about the Eclipse Gateway. I hope that this video is a blessing to you going forward, and I hope that the Eclipse Gateway period brings you all your dreams come true. But for now, thank you, and I'll catch you next week with our solar eclipse video.